Yeah, welcome everyone to the December 18th, 2025 meeting of the Sherborn Select Board. We have no executive session tonight, so we're going to dive right into our public session. And I'll ask the Assistant Town Administrator to please read the agenda.
Good evening. After I read the agenda, the board can vote to amend or approve the agenda. I had no request for public comment tonight, and items may be taken out of order, and topics not anticipated 48 hours in advance may be added. Tonight's discussion, starting at 6:30, is discussion and vote on invoking Mass General Law, Chapter 32B, Sections 21 through 23, for the purpose of negotiating health insurance plan design changes. Item number 2 is our on-site insight presentation regarding town building capital and maintenance. Dan Isle is the consultant who will be speaking tonight, along with Sean Khalid, our DPW director. Item number 3 is a consideration of a town of Sherborn mailbox policy. Sean Khalid will be discussing that. Item number 4 is a land acquisition discussion regarding the current road and a possible change to the current charge. The Land Acquisition Committee will be here. Item number 5 is a consideration of various licenses for ABC, Common Vic, Class 2, Stable. Jeannie Guthrie will speak on that if there's any questions. Item number 6 is the consent agenda. It's a 10-day payroll warrant, a one-day liquor license for Pauline Bounds for a library event on January 10th, and a request to extend New Year's Eve serving hours for a private event at the Fireside Tavern. Item number 7 is select board reports, and item number 8 is town administrator updates.
Move approval of the agenda.
Second.
All in favor? Thank you. Passed unanimously. Well, let's begin with our discussion and vote of invoking Massachusetts law for the purposes of negotiating our health insurance plan design changes. Is that you, Jeremy? You're going to lead us through that?
A brief intro. We have, you've had a discussion at prior meetings about entering in some negotiations with the various parties to make some plan design changes for your health insurance benefit for employees and retirees. As you learned at your last meeting, the first step in that process is to invoke this general law, Chapter 32B, Sections 21 through 23. It's been placed on your agenda. The appropriate notice has been provided to all of the union representatives and to the mass retirees. They have confirmed receipt of the notice. Some are in attendance today, but your action this evening would be to make a motion and possibly vote to invoke Mass General Law 32B, Sections 21 through 23. The motion is in your packet.
Can I just add to that?
Yes,
This
Paul?
board has already adopted this
Yes.
many years ago, maybe 9 years ago, maybe 2017. And we already went through a process of utilizing it and reaching agreement with everyone. So it's nothing new for us. It's following the same pathway that we already have done in the past.
Yeah, thank you. That's very helpful, Paul. I have one question about the process. Does it includes input from union representatives?
Correct.
And from retirees of Sherborn? What about current employees of Sherborn? Are they involved in any way?
The Mass General Law does not have them specifically included as members of the Insurance Advisory Committee or the Public Employees Committee. However, they would be represented through administration and the select board.
Okay. So do we have a way of making sure they're aware this is going on? And,
Yes.
okay, just checking.
All these letters went to all those people, right?
Right. Dan, please.
I just wanted to note for anyone on Zoom who wants a little more background on this, that at our last select board meeting 2 weeks ago, we had a presentation and pretty lengthy discussion of the process and how the whole thing plays out. And so if you're interested in, if it seems like a brief discussion tonight and you're interested in more background, that would be a great place to go to get that.
And if the board does vote affirmatively this evening, that would trigger a meeting of the Insurance Advisory Committee, which all of the unions are representative of. And then follow on from that would be a 30-day negotiation period with the Public Employee Committee, which has representatives from each of the unions.
So all those data that we were given last week, comparing all kinds of different plans, that will all be re-examined during these negotiations.
In much detail.
In much more detail. Great. So any more comments before we vote?
Just one that in my intention is to vote for this, but in voting for this, it's not because I have made a decision what would be a good plan change or that there'd be any plan change. What I'm supporting is that we look into it, that we owe it to the taxpayers of the community to be constantly looking at our costs and seeing if we can find savings and improvements and benefits. So that's the basis why I'm going to vote yes.
Yeah, thank you for making that clear. That's
Just
important.
a point of order. If you could please speak up a little bit, I guess folks in
All right, me particularly?
No, in general, I'm just
Okay.
reminding folks to speak up.
I was just going to add one thing too, Mayor, which is we've had a consultant advising us. So what Dan referred to in a prior meeting was based on several months of review of different plan options and looking what other communities and what recommendations from the consultant. So the committee and subcommittee has done a lot of work in preparing for this, and now we're moving forward with what we think makes the most sense. And it has a number of different options for people to choose from.
Right.
For any employee or
Right.
retiree to choose from.
Correct.
Yeah, so, yeah. Dan,
Can I make a motion?
yes, please.
I'd like to move to invoke Mass General Law, Chapter 32B, Section 21 to 23, for the purpose of negotiating health insurance plan design changes.
Second.
All right, let's take a vote. Does this need to be roll call for any reason? No.
I don't think so.
Okay. All in favor?
All right.
It's unanimous. Thank you.
Okay, Sean. you're
Oh,
up.
wait, could I just suggest
Okay.
that we see if there be any public comment on
Oh, yes. Yeah, thank you.
this public input?
Yeah.
This-
We neglected to ask for public input before we voted, but public input is welcome right now if anyone wants to ask about the negotiation for the health insurance plan. Hearing none. Is that a comment that just, oh no, someone just entered, sorry. Okay, thanks, everybody. Our next item is a presentation on an on-site insight study of all the town buildings, capital maintenance, looking forward for the next 10 years or more.
20.
20 years.
The consultant's not here, I think. I think he probably thought it was 7 o'clock.
All right.
Because we told him about it before the agenda was posted, so. Is there other items you can do?
Okay, you're the next one too. Mailboxes.
Yeah, that's a good point, Sean. I wasn't sure if the consultant was here or not. He's not. So we will just go ahead with our agenda if everyone approves and
Yep.
come back to this. Okay, the next item is consideration of a town of Sherborn mailbox policy. Sean, DPW director.
So you guys were given the document, and we developed that really last year, myself and Addie May, looking at, many other municipalities. As you know, mailboxes come in conflict with snow removal quite often. So we've never really had a posted policy, but we needed one so that it's pretty clear, what we're responsible for. So that's what we outlined in the document. If we don't, if we strike it, we back over it, we drive over it, it's our responsibility to fix that, or, if our contractors do. The vast majority of them are old mailboxes that have been there for 30 years, and they fall over. And some of them are rather large ones that people just put in and they get upset. But they put them too close, they put them too low, and we can't be responsible for it. We can't. You guys shouldn't want the DPW to be spending hours and hours and hours right after a snowstorm repairing people's mailboxes. That's not our responsibility, and I think that outlines it pretty well.
Right, that, I thought it was, it looked like a pretty reasonable plan to me. If I can try to summarize kind of the key point, is that everyone chooses to put their mailbox in the road right-of-way because that's where it's most convenient and most convenient for the mail deliverer. But the snow plows inevitably throw snow right into the right-of-way because that's what they have to do. So basically, we citizens take on a certain risk. Our mailboxes take on a certain risk for the benefit of having good street plowing. And maybe, does anyone want to add to that? Or Sean, can you fill that in a little bit?
Yeah, everyone has the option to get a P.O. box. We've never struck a P.O. box. It is, different areas of the country are different. There's places, and we looked at this as we were doing research, there's places on highway layout, you are not allowed to put that mailbox there. The rural roads up in New Hampshire and Maine, they're 20 feet off the road because the snowdrift is that big. We don't get to choose the regulations here. This is a rural route. The postmaster dictates where they put them. And I've had conversations with them, and I've said, you put that in direct conflict with the top of our plow because the plow overhangs the curb, and we have to clear the storm drains and everything else. So we do the best we can.
After a big storm, how many people might typically call and say, "Hey, you trashed my mailbox"?
If they let me plow, a whole bunch.
Yeah. It depends on the storm. It's not necessarily the biggest of the big storms. We're usually leaning hard enough to even try to get the edge of the road. It's the storms when it's about to freeze and maybe there's some slush on the road. The slush comes off the plows like a cannon.
Yeah.
And there's a certain minimum speed we actually have to go so the slush doesn't end up back under the truck and halfway across the road and freeze. Especially on roads like Prospect Street, Hunting Lane. You got to lay into it to launch it. We probably had as many as 10.
Okay.
I was going to add two minor things. One, Sean knows my son Brendan. My mailbox spring mounted, so you can hit it all you want. It flips over and it bounces back up again.
Of course, your mail's all over the road.
But the second thing is, this is a more serious one, is that we have two Eagle projects we've had in the last maybe 10 years, because it's also important, since we're on mailboxes, to have your street address number on the mailbox. And that's for EMT purposes also, so that they're in an emergency in the dark and they're trying to find an address. And I just delivered 460 wreaths in this town to different houses, okay? So it's very hard to find Frank's daughter across Western Avenue, for example, who has no mailbox. And then kidding aside, trying to get to an emergency situation quickly without knowing the street address, and it's in the dark.
That's true.
So
and many of the numbers are not
really
easily visible.
Completely on topic, but we had two different Eagle projects that went through every home in town and identified the ones that weren't compliant with the number on their mailbox. So I would encourage people to do that.
Paul?
So I have some reservations about the policy, sorry to say, because I don't think it's generous enough. That's from my experience elsewhere. But, for example, the reimbursement up to a maximum of $50. Well, if you're the kind of person who has someone else install the mailbox and has to go get the mailbox, bring it, install it, and so on, $50 probably isn't going to cover it because the mailbox is going to be like $30 and then the labor costs and so on. This isn't generous enough, number one. And my other comment is that we're excluding snow being thrown from a plow, but it often depends on the angle that the plow is approaching the mailbox. And if a plow is pretty much heading straight for a mailbox, so if you have a T intersection and there's a mailbox straight ahead and the plow is coming in, there's going to be some risk there that's different from the risk that's associated with somebody going up and down Route 27. I just had somebody telling me a story of a mailbox incident that happened last year and the difficulty they had to go through and actually got themselves interviewed by a police officer about the mailbox. Just, this isn't a large amount of money, and we're talking about residents of the town who go to bed at night, thinks everything's fine, and they wake up in the morning and they can't find their mailbox. It just seems a little too restrictive.
Okay.
I'd like to make the reimbursement up to $100, and this business about damage caused by the weight of the snow, I think needs to be reworded a little bit so that it just covers when the situation, like when I remember driving on the Mass Turnpike and a snowplow was coming the other way and they sprayed my car with stuff. That I have no problem excluding. But there are incidents that have been described to me that you'd have to have a jury trial to figure out how did this actually happen, and what was it? The weight of the snow? Was it? And don't we have insurance for this?
We have insurance for accidents, but
It doesn't cover.
if we don't strike that mailbox, the insurance company's not going to cover it. If we strike it, we pay. It's blatantly obvious when a big orange snowplow smacks into a mailbox. It leaves a mark. Typically, the snow hits it. It's laying in the snowbank and it's not. The bracket may or may not be damaged. The post sometimes falls over.
I think it's pretty hard though, Paul, to define, because if you think about it, if we've had, 3 or 4 storms and now the snow is 1.5 on the side of the road, you might be plowing and you might not even push the snow you're currently plowing onto the mailbox, but if you hit the bank, it can push that into the snow too.
Yeah,
So it's very hard to.
And we can't be responsible for that, right?
No, I think it's just a hazard of living in a rural area and not having a P.O. box, I think. I mean,
Well, you should talk to residents about that. They don't, the input I've gotten is no, that living in Sherborn should not be,
well, it's not really just Sherborn. It's just a rural area, and there's not much you can do. I mean, that's what plows do. You know, they have to clear the road. And by the way, if you're on Brush Hill Road, which is about 10 feet wide to begin with, how the hell are you going to plow the road and not push it off to the side? Some of our streets are so narrow. It's not like the Mass Pike at all. Some of these super narrow streets, there's no place to send the snow.
and the other problem is that you started to talk about. If the snow is, if you've got 4 feet of snow, 4 feet of snow, on a 10-foot wide, you're going to take out all the mailboxes. And then we're going to have this big fight with every neighbor on that street because Sean is going to say, well, look what the policy says. That was really snow thrown by because there's no actual nick on the post. And the neighbors are going to say, you know, gee, all of us are going to get together. We're going to sue the town. Maybe file a class action suit, blah, 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 because the snowplow came by and took out every mailbox on the street.
No, I don't think that's the case.
I
mean, we had a
like to
storm
be-
this past year that there's 3 on our street, and I'm only 8 houses on our street, and I don't think anybody complained. They just view it as, you know, comes with the territory.
Sean, you said that after a big storm, maybe there'd be 10 boxes down, and maybe one of them would be a hit and the rest would be snow getting pushed, or?
Maybe one.
Yeah.
It's pretty rare we hit them.
Yeah.
It usually, the guys know when they hit it.
Yeah.
You know,
They're going to hear
either
it.
they back into it and they know they just backed into it because it's in a weird spot when they're turning around, or you know. And we have temporary mailboxes, and we'll usually go put one out because it's kind of a way of saying, yeah, we got that one. And you know, when a plow hits it going even 5 miles an hour, that box is usually destroyed.
I mean,
Pretty obvious.
Personal anecdotes, right? We have a spare junky mailbox in the garage attic, so that if one gets taken off, we just, you know, put the other one up, and we try pretty hard to, when there is a bank of snow, to clear it out so that there's space for the new snow. But I know not everybody is set up to do that.
Right. Do we have any comments from the public on this? Or any more comments from the board?
Just that I wanted to see us be friendlier with our residents, that's all.
Could change to 50 to 100, would be one possibility.
Cost doesn't matter to me.
I mean,
What I don't want to do is have your DPW crew, when they're dog tired after plowing for 3 days, spend 40 man hours putting mailboxes together that someone should have replaced 10 years ago. And we've done that a lot for a lot of residents. And you go out there and you can tell the post was rotted, should have been replaced, and we're out there doing it. And it's expensive. We're really expensive mailbox installers. So it's not a good activity for us to be doing.
So, Sean, for clarity, the actual replacement of a mailbox that the town might pay $100 or $50 for are mailboxes that were directly hit by the plow. Is that correct? But not mailboxes that were taken out by, you know, flying snow or unknown reasons.
Yeah, we shouldn't be responsible for that.
No. So, Frank, do you have a comment?
Well, we have a mailbox that's been up for 50 years, and it's withstood Sean's plowing. And what we've done is we set it back 3 feet or so, you know where our mailbox is. So it doesn't, I mean, it's safe from anything, actually.
Right, an owner can always move the
The
mailbox.
post office, the driver just has to get off the road. And so I think just setting it back further off the road is going to be should be part of your policy, because you should encourage the people to keep it out of the way of the snowplows.
I don't know if there's anybody else who would comment. I think I'm okay with this. You know, maybe it should be 100 instead of 50, but I think I'm okay with this.
I think it's quite reasonable too. And, you know, we all are responsible for where we put our mailboxes. The DPW doesn't tell us where to put the mailboxes. We make that choice ourselves. So we take a certain risk, and I think it's fair.
Does the post office have a policy on where the mailbox?
Yes,
They have guidelines, absolutely.
Absolutely.
From the road.
I don't think too many of ours
6 to 12
comply.
It's ridiculous. Yeah.
Oh,
And by the way, our blades hang 12 to 18 inches from the cutting edge to the end of the wing.
Yeah.
So
Well,
to not hit something at 6
ours
inches.
is about 4 feet off the road, and
Right.
they still deliver the mail. And they've done that for 50
I
years.
mean, they only enforce that where there's a curb because they can't help the curb.
Okay, no, there's no curb.
Right, and so there's no curb and nobody knows exactly where the right-of-way is.
Right.
I think it's probably not realistic to make very strict rules in town. It's kind of a pragmatic approach, which I think is a reasonable one. Any more discussion? Would someone like to make a motion?
I think Dan already did. I'll second it. You want to move, or we
Yeah.
accept the document, other, what?
Yeah, what do you think, 50 or 100?
100 would be good, I think, yeah.
All right, so I move to accept the proposed Sherborn mailbox policy with the change that the $50 reimbursement be changed to $100 reimbursement.
I'll second that.
All right, we'll vote on the amended policy. All in favor?
Aye.
Paul, I didn't see whether you voted.
I did not vote yes, I was gonna vote no.
Okay,
Okay.
all opposed? Okay, so noted.
I don't see your people yet, so you want to go on? You want to do the land acquisition one? Frank's here.
Right, it is Dan Isles, is it, or Lies?
He's not in the audience here.
He's not in the audience, okay. Is he going to join us on Zoom, Sean?
Yes.
Okay. Frank, you're welcome to just pull up to wherever it's convenient.
The podium?
Oh, you can sit here at the chair.
Oh, okay. Do you have a slide?
Yeah.
Anything this I
Do
take
you want the wheels or?
No,
chair on the
it's
wheels?
just like, it's something I had about a week and a half ago, which is hang on. So I haven't seen it.
I don't want to just tell them.
Yes.
No.
We should move that to the children's table, Paul.
Yeah, I'm thinking about it.
This mailbox is so hidden, I delivered his wreaths to his neighbor. So. I'm not joking.
I was gonna say that. And they brought back 3.
I know they did, I know. I brought those other ones to your sister, your daughter, rather.
Okay, thanks. Frank Jenkins is going to start a discussion regarding the role and possible changes to the Land Acquisition Committee.
Right, exactly. Thank you, Marianne. Yeah, I just wanted to go over with you, the Land Acquisition Committee has been in place for 30 years. I guess, Paul, you were the only one around. You and I were the only ones around. And that was voted in by town meeting in 1995. And it was established mainly to make an acquisition of a large parcel on Lake Street. And it was successfully passed at town meeting. But the committee was made up of representatives of the planning board, open space, capital budget, and other related committees and boards in town in order to look at various parcels that might be of interest under Chapter 61 parcels. So what we've accomplished, the committee was re-energized in 2016 due to Sherborn's increased attraction to developers wanting to come into town and develop undeveloped parcels of land that were available. The membership, as I said, was included a select board appointment, Planning Board appointment, Conservation Commission, Capital Budget Committee, and Open Space. And 2 members appointed by the moderator for terms of 3 years each. The membership was changed in 2023 to add a member from the Groundwater Protection Committee and replace the member from the Capital Budget Committee, with the understanding that if any project was put forth, Capital Budget would certainly have a chance to look at it and evaluate it. What have we done since 1995? We succeeded by purchasing the Price property on Lake Street. It was a 16.9 acre parcel. And it was considered critical to the town because that was a point in which we might be able to obtain water to serve downtown and some sort of a public water supply. We've also completed an inventory of large parcels, 20 acres or more, looking at their value from an economic or recreation or development potential for the town. We developed a process in the event a parcel, 61A parcel, became available, and shared that with the town manager at the time. And we supported, and we're continuing to support the effort to complete the rail trail from Holliston to Framingham on the western part of town. The membership today consists of Eric Johnson, Steve Constantine, Courtney Eck, Seth Malloy, Rob Wolf, Warren Wheelwright, and myself. And that's the membership that is carried over because no new appointments were made last year, despite Diane's request, I guess, 2 times for the committees to appoint a member from their committee to serve on the Land Acquisition Committee, which indicates to me that people may not know what we do, or people may not feel that what we do has any value. So we have maintained our membership until someone changes it. Today, the Sherborn Rural Land Foundation is very active in targeting large parcels, 61A parcels, as well as other privately owned parcels that may not be under 61A, in order to make sure that there's some dialogue with the owners, that there may be some town interest in obtaining that land if it ever becomes available. The Sherborn Rural Land Foundation board has some overlap with our committee. Courtney Eck is on both my committee as well as on the Sherborn Rural Land Foundation. I am on the Sherborn Rural Land Foundation. Seth Malloy sits in on our meetings, so we have a lot of overlap between the 2 boards. And the Sherborn Rural Land Foundation has been very successful in several projects, and it can act quite independently, but its interests are certainly within the interests of the town. And sometimes they make acquisitions that do not involve any town money, which is very interesting and very supportive of our attempt to keep Sherborn the way it was. So today, what I'm asking you guys to do is to think about land acquisition. Is our role still relevant? And are there things that we might be doing that are perhaps not in our charter, but we perhaps could modify the charter to include? Now, I have had discussions with Heidi Doyle, Sam Nelson, Kelly McClintock, and things like considering other smaller 61A parcels that might be of interest because of trail blockage or something. There's some interest, I think, in maybe developing a Woodhaven 2 project for the town, and but I don't think there's any land available that might. But maybe that's something that the land acquisition could be doing, is looking at ways to perhaps assemble some parcels together to meet that need. I'd just like to sort of throw it open for discussion to see if there's any interest in continuing with the Land Acquisition Committee? And if so, is there a need to recharge our charter? And maybe town meeting would have to consider an article that would have to do that.
Good. I have a comment, and others on the select board, I think, do as well. Let's start with, and you have a comment too, I'm sure. Let's take the select board comments first. Paul, go ahead.
So I was there when it was established, and I've seen the work that it's done, and the committee is amazing, in my view. We have a lot of property that are 61A. When that, and all 61A properties, we have a right of first refusal.
Right.
And when that right of first refusal becomes available, it's time sensitive. We need to act pretty rapidly. So we need like a rapid action team.
Mhm.
So we wanted the acquisition committee to study all these parcels and basically have files on all the parcels.
Yes,
So
we
that
do.
when we had this opportunity, we would ask you, is this something the town should be acquiring? Knowing that we would have to call a town meeting and do all kinds of things and still meet the 120 days.
Mhm.
So you've done all of that. You're poised there.
We've done a lot of the front end work.
And we
Yes.
didn't want to see a lot of turnover on the committee because there's an accumulated institutional knowledge. I mean, the whole point of having a rapid response team in place is so that, like yourself, you don't have to start from scratch and say, okay, where are the files on all the parcels we looked at? Let me take a look at them. Let me figure out if they're of any value. You already know that information, and you can get us that information on a timely basis.
Yes, and we've worked for large parcels, 20 acres or more. But there's a lot of smaller parcels too that may be of interest.
Yes, they could be of interest.
You and I worked on that.
So there shouldn't be a limit on size.
Right, okay.
But the idea was to go for the big ones because that was the most obvious stuff that would have the most immediate impact. I do have a legal concern that we're not in compliance with the State Ethics Act.
With the
because-
state what?
The State Ethics Act. Because you have a board, a municipal board, and on that board are people who have a private interest. The private interest is rural land. And while they're doing good things, they are a private foundation. And we consider it a separate business entity. And they could be in competition with the town. And therefore, there's some state ethics stuff that you'd have to go through to reconcile the presence of so many rural land people on the land acquisition committee. We don't want to get into a situation where we decide we want to buy a piece of property and we're bidding against the Rural Land Foundation, for example.
Oh.
And while theoretically, because there's overlapping membership, there wouldn't be that competition, legally, none of the rural land people could participate in any of the decisions where rural land would have an interest. And if you disqualify all of them, then you don't have a quorum. So there's some legal work that would need to kind of fix this committee a little bit.
I can tell you right now, there's no conflict of interest between Sherborn Rural Land and the Land Acquisition Committee. I mean, both are targeting the same objective, and that is to support the town of Sherborn the way we want to be supported.
I understand, I'm talking about a legal technicality.
I got you.
Not,
Yeah, right. So,
I don't know, I should be clear. All the people that are on this committee, I think, are wonderful. I don't think there's a soul in there who is going to do anything to harm Sherborn. I'm just saying there's a legal system that says that, you know, you can't represent a corporation. I don't know, trying to think of like some big company at the same time be acting on a matter that the company has involvement with. You can't.
Okay.
They're separate organizations, and the state law says there has to be a separation
Gotcha.
between the two.
Okay.
So all that being said, the answers that I would have, based on familiarity with what you've done and admiration for the team and for the effort that has gone on, would be the committee should continue.
Okay.
So the answer to the first question I would suggest is the land acquisition committee as defined today still relevant? Yes, but I think we need to tweak the relationship between that and the rural land.
Okay.
And should it be redefined to meet today's needs? And the answer there would be a tweak, which is eliminate the 20-acre floor. Have a land acquisition look at all parcels
Okay.
of any kind. And that's my 2 cents.
Thank you. I'll just go down the select board. Those are good points. Jeff? what's
No,
your
I think
response?
we already, because Mary and I used to be on land acquisition, and we worked on the ones down to 10, and I think even 5, so.
Yeah. But
But I think it is a lot of properties though, so maybe if you know where 61A land is, I don't think you can do every property that's 5 acres and above, because there's only so many people that are volunteering to do the analysis. But if we had a targeted, list.
You can do it in stages. Right now
Well,
it's
I know.
20, then you can go to 15.
No, well, they've been doing that. They've been doing that all along.
Then
The
go to
regulars,
10.
okay? I actually got thrown off of land acquisition committee when the town moderator found out, because you can't be on advisory and be on any other board. So I was quickly removed from land acquisition committee in earlier life.
just going down the line, if you don't mind, Dan, I'll go next. And then I, of course, was on land acquisition committee to evaluate a lot of properties for you, et cetera. I think the main value that I think it has is it's a group of people that just have their ear to the ground.
Mm-hmm.
And to have that early kind of, information available is good. What I would say is I don't think the Land Acquisition Committee should be dissolved for that reason. However, I agree with Paul about maybe having Sherborn Rural Land board members off but communication is super important between the town and Sherborn Rural Land, so we want to preserve that for sure. But I feel like, having been on both sides, that Land Acquisition Committee is in a little too much of a silo, and that's true of most of the boards and committees in town, so that's not special to you, but this is a committee that really should be talking to other boards and committees much more often. For example, let me give you some examples. Most people on most boards don't know which properties are Chapter 61. And that can change. Some go off, new ones come on. And every time that happens, there should be, a little red flag on land acquisition. Oh, we have a new Chapter 61, or oh, this one has gone off. We now have only a year to exercise the right of first refusal. Or to say, do the research, the legal research that sometimes we need to understand how to handle glitches in the process that are not covered by state law. For example, one that we've grappled with just now with a property is, what do you do when a property that is potentially important for trails, the owner sends a letter, we're taking it out of Chapter 61, the town sends a letter back, okay, we want to exercise our right. Then the next step, Ann gives an appraisal, doing the same process that you guys laid out for us. But the owner, the next step should be that the owner comes back with an alternate appraisal. But if the owner simply never comes back,
Yeah.
you know, state law doesn't deal with that. And you're kind of the committee that might dig into that a little bit for us. Maybe, you know, the administration may correct me on that, but it would be a useful task. And the other thing is, the Land Acquisition Committee could be monitoring what's happening at the state level to the Chapter 61 law. I'm not sure, I think it was probably Tom Trainer that sent me a bulletin from the Massachusetts Municipal Association pointing out that as part of the bill, that the House bill that's up for re-election now, it's the Mass Ready Act, an act to build resilience for Massachusetts communities. Part of that is about making changes in
Yes.
Chapter 61 that really would affect the town.
Yes.
And I won't go into those changes, but land acquisition is the committee that might have their ear to the ground to see how we can make it work better for us. And I think they could also help at the local level. And we have also a perennial problem with communication with our with our assessor's office and board of assessors. I discovered while on planning board and on land acquisition committee that if a landowner wants to put a big piece of their land under Chapter 61, they can if it's big enough. They reserve a certain amount of land not under Chapter 61 to retain a conforming lot for zoning. But the assessor has never required that 2 acre or 1 acre or whatever it is, conforming lot be mapped. So when properties come up that are in Chapter 61 and the town needs to do all that it needs to do, we don't know which land is actually under Chapter 61 because nobody bothered to demand a map in the very beginning. So there are things like that that I think would be very helpful. And there's no other committee other than perhaps planning board that would be on top of that sort of thing. But on the other hand, I see land acquisition as working very closely with planning board and with open space committee.
Yeah.
But land acquisition evaluates property not just for open space, but for anything the town might need.
Recreation, school site, yeah.
So,
And water, don't forget Pricewood.
Yeah, and water.
yes. So anyway, I think that it still has a role to play in town, and I'd like to see that role expanded and made more communicative with other boards and committees.
Okay.
Thanks, Marion. So, Frank, a very nice record of the committee and the work that it's done over the years. I was doing other stuff in 1995. I wasn't here at the time of the creation, but it's a really nice record.
You were in grade school, weren't you?
I was actually I was out of grade school. I'll save the personal biography for a private conversation. It strikes me that I don't know what the right structure is, but I think something that makes the Land Acquisition Committee quite valuable, is distinct from Sherborn Rural Land Foundation, is that I think most of the time there's an overlap in interests. That's not necessarily always going to be true. It's been true with kind of the current composition of people involved in that, but 10 years ahead, Sherborn Rural Land Foundation might be going in a different direction, and having a group that's more directly tied to what's the town's interest seems to me important and valuable. I think I'd second the comments that have been made before about perhaps a bylaw change so that smaller parcels could also be within scope of the committee. There are many times in which it wouldn't be worth a lot of time on a smaller parcel, but there might be one that is a smaller parcel that would provide a key trail connection. And, it might not be 25, 30 acres, but could be a really important property for the town to consider acquiring. And going a little further beyond this, did you want to jump in? You?
Well, we can't acquire it unless the owner is willing to sell it.
Oh, of course. But I mean, that's true with larger parcels too.
And informs the town that it intends to, right?
But I mean, that's true with larger parcels
Yes,
too.
right.
I was just thinking in the same process.
Right.
Somebody may have a 6-acre parcel in chapter land and they're ready to sell, and that would seem like, you're the group, as was said, with your ear to the ground and may be able to be kind of first on the case to bring that to people's attention.
Okay.
One other, this may be an expansion of scope beyond what they'd be interested in, but one other thing that occurs to me is there are a lot of small parcels that actually the town owns that I think aren't well documented, aren't well understood, and I don't know if land acquisition is the right group to think about that, but a little bit of time and thought of what are I don't know how many there are, but there are, some tens of small half-acre here, there was a tax thing, and an acre there, and might be worth somebody's focus at some point to think about what are those properties, how are they being used, could they be better used, and that's not land acquisition, that's land that's already owned, but that seems like a land task that's out there that would be valuable for some group to take up.
Okay.
Can I just expand on that last idea? Because we have towns that have what they call a yard sale program. And the point of the yard sale program is that there are all these little parcels of land in most municipalities, and they tend to be not on the tax rolls. Many times they're not even on the town's maps because they're just small little things left over. And what the municipality can do is to sell them. You advertise them and you sell them to the neighbors who got it to their yard. So the benefit to the town is that that's all now taxable land belonging to, who the owner is, because the town gives them a deed. And at the same time, it clears up a lot of records that are not certain. It cleans up the tax title stuff. So in other towns, systematically, like every 3 years or 5 years, a committee like land acquisition goes through all the tax titles and decides which are things that you want for open space, which are things you want for water resources, which are the ones you want for recreation. And you discover, wow, there's 100 parcels here that we don't want.
Yeah.
And then you, again, put them in the yard sale program and let people own them.
Yeah.
I think that's very much within the purpose of the Land Acquisition Committee now.
We did this, we did this exactly maybe 20 years ago or so. And we found that the abutting neighbors know that the land is owned by the town. They enjoy using it as they would anyway.
Benefit of ownership is what he's saying.
Yeah. So we weren't too successful in selling any of those at yard sales.
But you would if you put up some barbed wire across the land.
Well, what you could do is give it to the neighbors and put it on the tax rolls.
Right. I mean,
the price is zero.
Could be sells for $1.
Yeah.
It could be depending on the parcel.
Yeah. So, but we got to open that up again. Yeah, I think because that might require sort of a redefinition of our role, maybe, and that's something that maybe you want to have at town meeting. I don't know, there'll be an article for that or something.
As you had said, the bylaw could be tweaked to.
Okay.
Right. And I think in the bylaw, there's no lower limit on the size of parcel you
Well,
can deal
yeah,
with.
well, 6 acres is the minimum, of course.
For 61.
Yeah,
But
with smaller parcels.
The bylaw does have that 20-acre number in it.
it doesn't,
It does.
are you sure?
No, I don't think so.
Oh, in the material in the packet, one of the versions, maybe it came out later, one of the versions, it said a focus on 20-acre larger
Well, they
parcels.
started at that, but then
And
they,
it may have
it was
changed.
a prioritization, I guess I
Maybe
would
that was the
say.
95 version and it's subsequently
Yeah.
changed.
Yeah,
that was
61 is being reconsidered again, as Paul mentioned. We have to get into the details of that. I know they've expanded the 120 days to 180, for
Oh, well,
instance.
yeah, I don't know if it's passed yet.
No, it may not have been passed, but that's being considered, and there's a lot of reason for that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but they're also considering that giving the state DCR or the agriculture automatic right of first refusal if the town does not exercise. So that, yeah, we don't want to get into that, but there are those changes.
Okay.
Are there other comments from the board? I'd like to then open it up. If not, I'd like to open it up to anyone in the public on Zoom who would like to comment. Oh my God. And selective smaller.
Right. So covers.
Okay, hearing none. Oh, Jeremy.
I just wanted to give just a little more clarity on what type of committee this is. It's not technically a bylaw committee, and the vote at town meeting did not change your bylaw. It formed the committee. It's like a town meeting committee, formed committee. You wouldn't need to change your bylaws. You would need to change the charge from town meeting.
Right.
Minor.
That could be done without a town meeting vote.
No, you would want to update town meeting's vote on the committee's charge.
Okay.
Change the
It's
charge.
technically not changed your bylaw.
Okay, good, thank you.
Would that separate the membership from Sherborn Rural Land? Is that what we're talking about?
The way that I read it now, there's no specific requirement for any members of rural land to be on land acquisition. There might be
There's no
some,
requirement, but there happens to be a
there
fact
might
that
happen to be some conflicts. There's no language or charge or membership change that I can see other than just vetting the membership such that there's no ethics issues.
Paul was raising the question of conflict of interest.
Yeah, but I think that's outside the current requirements of the makeup of the committee. It just happens that some of the members may have an affiliation with rural land. You could solve that now.
Oh,
That would not require bylaw change either.
Have folks step forward if they believe they have a conflict.
pardon?
You have folks, step off the committee if they have a conflict.
If they have a conflict.
But the membership wording voted at town meeting does not specifically require any rural land foundation.
No, it doesn't. Right.
So just to elaborate on that, I had a case where a municipality was awarding a contract to a nonprofit, and the chairman of the board made the motion to give it to the nonprofit in the past, and then he walked around and then sat in the chair in front of the board, and he says, now I'm speaking as president of the nonprofit that you just voted, and I'm signing the contract for the nonprofit. So he signed the contract for the town as chairman of the board. He signed the contract as the president of the foundation. And I said to him as town council, I said, can we have a pause here for a minute? You shouldn't be doing this. And he said, don't worry, it's a nonprofit, so there's no money involved here. Well, he got a whopping big fine from the State Ethics Commission.
Yeah.
And so the concern isn't that the Land Acquisition Committee will get whacked in any way, but some decent volunteer, I mean, these are all good people, who want to volunteer and do good things for the town gets whacked with a $10,000 fine without any idea that, wow, I didn't even know this stuff applied. So there's just some technical cleanup that needs to take place where you can't be on both sides of a transaction. You can't have the town. So let's say there's a property to be acquired, and the town's going to acquire half of it, and rural land's going to acquire the other half, and there's a nice meeting, and you have exactly the same situation where, you know, the Marion Nutra's the chair, signs it here, and then she walks around and she signs it as that, and we'll applaud her for the great work you've done, and then 2 weeks later you're indicted.
In jail.
Yes.
I mean, that's a really good point, Paul. Thank you for that. I must say, I don't think it has occurred to any of us, but it's a very good consideration.
Makes the negotiation easier if it's all the same person.
Right.
That's right.
Well,
We have had situations where the town has identified parcels that would be of interest to the town, mainly for rail connections and trail connections and so forth, and has brought the Sherborn Rural Land Foundation into that discussion in order to be able to execute an acquisition. So they're working with the town and making sure that the town's objectives are being met.
Yeah, I welcome that. It's just that they can't be the same people.
Right. No, right.
The town can't be the rural land,
Right.
and the rural land
Right.
can't be the town.
We understand that.
They need to be actually separate.
yeah, it's a good point, and actually
Right.
it spreads the interest to more people, and more people are involved, so it's good.
You're right.
Are there any other comments before we close? This was a very good discussion. Thank you very much, Frank.
Thanks, Frank.
Thank you, and I'll wait for whatever you guys want to do. If
Great.
there needs to be an article, we can work with you.
I think we need to discuss it again with
Sure.
you and maybe with other members of your committee
Yep.
to come up with the next step.
Good. Okay.
Well
Thank you.
done. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Frank.
All right, so we're going to go back in the agenda to item number 2. Sean is going to report along with the consultant,
So I'm going to move
Mr.
my seat
Isles,
over here.
who is on Zoom,
I'm not sure just you can buy the latest food.
are going to together report
Thank you.
on the on-site insight analysis of capital needs for town buildings and properties in Sherborn. So I'll turn it over to you, Sean. Maybe you can introduce Mr. Isles or take it away.
Thank you. I'll introduce Dan in just a second. I think probably certain everyone on this call understands what on-site insight is. So this is basically the third round we've done with on-site insight, doing a full facilities assessment of the town buildings. This is the first one we've done since the library got finished. So the last one we did was just before COVID. Obviously it was time to refresh it because the financials changed quite a bit during COVID and after. And of course, our biggest building came online. So it doesn't necessarily, it's basically a 20-year plan, and it's appropriate to kind of start fresh. And as everyone knows, the library's not completely brand new, so it was important to incorporate that. So last year's town meeting, we had an article that dedicated money to do the assessment and the plan, and that's where we're at. Dan's going to go through it. It's a lengthy document. I think it's 146 pages. Maybe I'm wrong. There's a lot
I'm not
there.
sure we got the whole detailed version. I think
And
we
then-
have,
Executive summary.
Okay.
There's a summary of the 20-year plan in your packet, but I separately emailed you an electronic version of
the full thing. We have 32.
And we'll make sure the whole document has a link on the front of the website, I think, so people aren't searching for it and asking everyone for it. And so what's going to happen tonight, Dan's going to go through it in the process of the next few meetings, with capital budget advisory. I already met with capital, but we didn't go over this. they'll all have that, and I'll basically have a one-page document that addresses, this year's funding for both some design work that leads into it, as well as we have two different articles, and then funding the plan, basically, the work.
And I think an important thing to add too is that it's also maintenance, because what we usually did is let things crash and burn and then replace them rather than maintain them.
Right.
So
And
this isn't just about capital, it's about how do you properly maintain an asset.
exactly. And Dan may hit on this a little bit, but this is much more of an internal conversation we've had for many years.
Yes.
That, there's this hovering of Prop 2.5 that looms over our head, but operating budget and capital are married in this plan, basically. It wasn't Dan's thing to just say, this is capital, that's operating budget. So we'll have those discussions over the course of the next few months.
So just to be clear, Sean, today's presentation or you and with Dan Isles is to introduce us to the big picture here.
Exactly.
And we're not going to be making any decisions.
You will, no.
I
Right.
think there's too much to digest.
Yeah.
And Sean and Dan over the last, all throughout the summer, actually, since town meeting appropriated the planning, have been working on this. It was only in late November was the document actually, culminated, put together. So, yes, it's been published, but there's a lot to digest of that in a broader sense. So, this is your introduction. You're likely going to hear more about it coming.
Right.
Dan can correct me, it was actually the schools that started this. Sherborn schools were using this onsite insight before the town. And it was because of that we
Yeah, it
kind
was
of
probably 2014 or 15
something around.
before we did our first one.
Yeah. So the schools did it for all the,
Okay.
Dover and Sherborn school properties.
Okay.
So let's hand it over to Dan. Hi, Dan.
Hi. Just wondering, first off, about how long do I have?
3 hours.
Okay. We
Two
should be
minutes.
able to
What do you
get
want
plenty
to? What do you
done.
want to
So the football game comes on at 8:30.
I hear you. Sounds good.
Dan, aim for 20 minutes, half an hour, but it depends on, can we stop you for questions? Is that okay?
Sure.
I got too
plan-
long because there's so much here.
Yep. My rough plan was to kind of give you a sense of how we went through the assessment, kind of give an overview of how the report is structured so that everyone's comfortable reviewing it and reading it and knows where to find certain information, kind of how it was put together, then touch on a few key kind of near-term big ticket items that we came across walking the sites and working with Sean and his team. And then at the end, kind of open it up to all questions. But if you have a question along the way, definitely just interrupt and let me know. We can clear it up and then kind of move on from there. So I'd like to share my screen if that'd be helpful.
Yes, please.
Okay. All right. So in the past, OSI has completed this kind of as 6 separate assessments.
But Dan, sorry to interrupt you, but are you able to make the image any bigger on your screen?
Yep, sure thing.
You can see it over here easier.
It is easier, but
That's good.
It'll crop out some of the page above or below.
I'm
but I
sorry,
can
it does
just-
crop some out.
That's no problem. There we go. And so in the past, we've kind of tackled this as 6 separate assessments for the town. And this time, the decision was made by your team to kind of roll this all up into one report so that there'd be one capital sum, one capital reserve plan master kind of summary for the town. And so that's really where my kind of review here starts, which would be on page 27. And what this is showing right here is a summary of all the anticipated capital needs for all 6 facilities for the next 20 years. It's shown as a bar graph there by year, from 2026 to 2045. It's just very high level overview of showing in inflated dollars, $10.3 million of capital needs in the next 20 years. And then in current dollars, it's about 8.5. This is the result of kind of walking all those sites with Sean. We would take a walk through all the common areas, all the shared facilities, look at all the mechanical equipment, take a look at all the interior finishes, including, flooring, cabinets, everything, and then take a walk around the outside, look at the building envelope, the windows, doors, roofing, siding, walk the site if there's any site improvements there in terms of paving or other amenities like that. Those are detailed, line by line, component by component, in 6 separate spreadsheets that make up this 152 pages. So you can really kind of take this high level view, but you can also go dig down and kind of find line item, year of replacement, and we'll do that briefly here to just give you a quick walkthrough. Let's see, the best one to start, I think, 63. So this here on the next page, 28, it's a little bit more detailed than we just saw in the total capital needs summary. It shows a line for each of the facilities, a year in the plan, and then the costs for the site systems in that year. So here we can see, looking across, the town hall is listed first, and you can see what years different site system expenses are being shown. They're broken down into site system, mechanical room, building mechanical and electrical, and then building architectural, which includes both exterior and the interior of the building. So that's how we get those 20-year total numbers. And again, that's the kind of high level view there. When we go to a specific site, I think we'll take a quick look first at the town hall. And go to page 65. So to take a look at just how to kind of interpret this page, because this is really what drives where all those numbers are coming from. This is what feeds up into that summary. To take an example, this line item here, executive or exterior doors, rear entrance, this is 4,000 replacement cost in current dollars. This is the age, and you can see that column header up here. It was just out of screen. Age of 24 years. And then this line is the expected useful service life. And that's just a typical length of time that that certain component is usually good for and can be maintained until it needs to be replaced. And so that's showing a replacement in year 6 of the plan. And then this little detail here is in 1 year. That's just saying that all $4,000, of course, inflated for costs in year 6 are being shown in 1 year. That's year 6 of the plan. Sometimes we spread, like down here, replacing glazing. We have just the glass panes. If those crack or break, shows 500 unit cost for $10,000 in current dollars. And that's showing replacement starting in year 1, spread over 10 years. And that's just to replace about 2 broken panes of window glass a year. So one of the first kind of big projects that we came across and kind of went over Sean and his plans for the repair is the exterior envelope at the town hall. The roof is more than 20 years old. There was significant damage noted in the soffit area, some spalling and not cracking brick, but mortar loss of the brick. And then window and door caulking is, again, probably more than 20 years old. So this was kind of rolled up here into this exterior renovation line. I'm trying to highlight that for you. There we go. And this is all shown in year 1, which is a calendar year. So it would be next year, 2026, to do envelope renovations, including roof replacement, soffit repair, brick, tuck pointing, replacing a side door entry pad of concrete, and repairing louver vents. And then Sean had sent along just some design and consulting fees to include in that figure. So this is shown as one line item here, to be handled kind of as one improvement project, because it doesn't make sense really to, do roofing, not do a soffit. It doesn't make sense to stage for siding repairs and not tackle caulking at the same time, just that kind of thing. So that was rolled up, but the line items are still individually listed. They're just noted that is included in the exterior renovation project. And so there's a few other kind of big ticket projects that we can go over in the near term, but I'd like to just ask if there's any questions at this point, or if you'd like me to go over anything else.
I have an easy question, Dan, but confessing my ignorance, what constitutes Fire Station 1 versus Fire Station 2?
They're two separate.
Column.
Yep.
One is headquarters, one is 22 North Main.
Okay. All right, I didn't know that they made a distinction.
And number 2 is over near
Road.
the church.
Yeah, okay.
I have another sort of overall question, Dan, if I may, a simple one. Looking through some of these charts, I must admit I did not read them all, but there must be instances in which something is in such dire need of repair that putting it off a year would be a big mistake. Do you have any red flags? And how do we know which is a red flag?
Sure. So in kind of my walkthrough, there weren't any kind of like immediate, life safety issues noted or pointed out by Sean or his team. And when we kind of look at replacement timing and prioritizing, we kind of break that into two categories. The first one being things that are gonna, if they fail, cause further damage to the building and cost even more to repair. And number two kind of being the things that are more discretionary in nature, more cosmetic, like carpeting or painting. So with that said, I'd say nothing really jumped out at me. It seems like your team definitely has a handle on knowing the buildings they work on and are in every day, and that the few things that popped up, that's why I stopped here at the town hall. Roofing. If roof shingles are overdue and you get a roof leak, that leak causes more damage in the building and costs more. So something like that is going to be more of a priority than painting inside or replacing carpeting. But aside from that, I've kind of laid it out year by year, years 1 through 20. I would say things that are in years 1 and 2 is really something to think about. And then kind of assess, is that something we really should be doing this year? Maybe it can go a year, but I think as we've talked, things like the definitely that exterior work. Let's see what else. The Fire Station 2, it probably wouldn't cause extensive damage, but that front metal wrapping was another thing that came up. Just making sure that that siding's all intact, and that roof. I didn't have access to that roof, but it's believed to be what Sean probably knows. I mean, at least 25 or 30 years old.
Pushing 40.
40?
Original.
Yeah.
Original.
Yeah.
And those are the only things that come to mind in that sense.
Could I ask one other just quick, easy question?
Sure.
I noticed throughout in many places you've broken it down as cost per square foot.
Mm-hmm.
And I was just not clear, what's the practical value of having that cost per square foot number?
For a lot of things, that's how it's actually priced out. If you go to get an estimate for carpet replacement or painting, there's some different terms used for things like roof shingles and things like that. But knowing that square foot quantity and working the cost out that way is the most accurate way.
Could I jump in? I was just gonna add on to what Marion said, and Dan, I think this is probably more for Sean and our various boards and committees, but I think our big challenge, at least as I'm thinking about this, is with limited resources, how do we sort out which of these items are the things that need to be done first, second, third, and just looking at the first 3 years with, I don't know, something like 4 million of stuff, limited resources, 4 million of capital projects in the next 3 years could be challenging to manage and finance. So I think, whatever insights there can be about how to prioritize some of these things and how to sequence some of them, I think will be, as we have those conversations in the next couple of months, will be really valuable and important.
Yeah, some of that'll probably be a little more evident when I bring it back.
Yeah, of course.
Uh,
I mean, that's really more, I think, for you and for all of us.
Well, exactly. And like he said, it's not like there's anything that, if we don't fix it this year, it's gonna,
Right.
Likely catch fire.
So then it becomes a
and lose
question
it.
of sequencing and figuring it all out.
Right.
Paul?
So I want to provide a little historic perspective on this, that back 20, 30 years ago, none of these buildings were in any kind of reasonable shape. We had people saying that the town, there was no way the town could do anything with these buildings. Maybe we should dissolve as a town and merge with another town, all that kind of stuff. And the building, the six that you've listed here, I was involved in getting all of these renovated and built, and you're saying, well, these are old and need work. But I remember what they were like, and this is like, these buildings are fabulous compared to where we were.
Oh, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So
We're gonna keep them that way.
that's the first point. In addition to these buildings, we rebuilt the regional schools, we did Woodhaven, we had the Leland Farms, and there was a lot of other buildings too that we were able to inspire the voters to go along with.
Mm-hmm.
And as part of that process, we had to negotiate with a lot of stakeholders, including the advisory committee. And we developed some standards for prioritization and for timing of reports like the Insight report. The Insight report is good, but I would consider it academic given the Sherborn situation, where, like, for example, one of the things we decided from the get-go was that useful life as the criteria for when things need to be replaced, that we would push that. So it wouldn't be so much useful life as the thing is about to break. So a little different different plan. So you mentioned the roof, and you say, okay, the roof is 20 years, so let's get the roof replaced in 20 years. Instead, the deal we struck with advisory, and I don't remember, Jeff, you may have been on advisory back then, but the deal we struck was, no, we wouldn't automatically replace things at the end of the useful life. We would actually look at the roof. And if we felt we could get another year out of it, get another couple of years out of it, we would get that, we would take that. And so all
It
of
ties
this,
to the maintenance question. There's a bathtub curve in facilities. Facilities fail early because of either construction or random defects in manufacture. Then they fail at the end of their life. But if we don't maintain it, we shorten the life.
right, but there was a commitment that we would also maintain.
So we have to commit to maintaining if we're going to extend the life like which is a good strategy. But we can't give up both.
And we certainly do the second part.
Yes, yes.
Because those things well beyond their useful life.
Yeah, well, it's like fire trucks. You run the fire trucks, we basically run them into the ground.
Make them Brian trucks for the DPW.
You'll see the chief make a presentation.
But the point is, we don't, the agreement finally reached was that we wouldn't run things into the ground, and we would do maintenance,
Yeah,
but it wouldn't be as strict as what I'm seeing in this insight report.
Well, you gotta remember, the report is a good predictor. If we don't predict it, we're gonna slap upside advisory with massive hits later on. I mean, the report needs to advise us to say, you need to be spending money. Because Sherborn, I'll remind you, you'll remember, likes to go on these 20-year binges where we just let everything go to hell, and then we have $8 million worth of road work to do.
But we're used to it, and the voters are used to it, and they voted everything that we asked them to do. We got all these projects passed, and we got debt exclusions passed, and we got 2/3 votes at town meeting, and so on, with a more relaxed commitment. So if you have a fire truck and it's still running, it still can get to the fire, it doesn't break down on the way.
the chief can talk about this. They got two vehicles.
Try and get a little more use out of it, and you factor in, okay, you have to order it years in advance and all of that. So it's a little more relaxed than just automatically, oh, the roof, 20 years is good for 20 years, end of 20 years, boom, we're going to replace it, because it might fail right on time. But our experience is that things don't fail on time. We actually let it go 20, 30 years beyond failure. With the town building here, we had asbestos that was falling on workers, and people had to wear hard hats and all that kind of stuff, if you remember.
Yeah, we do. This room had chalkboards surrounding all perimeter of this room when I moved here.
Yeah. So, but to get the voters to spend money on a town hall was not easy.
Yeah.
So when I see, we had the brickwork done. We had all that stuff looked at. I mean, this building was renovated. And here we are, I don't know how many years it's later, but
25
years, yeah.
So it's 25 years since town hall.
Yeah.
That's the challenge, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
how do we strike that balance of not getting to a point where you have a major project, and also when you get to that point, you can't just all of a sudden do the work. You've got to design the work, so you got to plan ahead. And this report identifies $8 million current value over 20 years. That's significant for those 6 buildings.
Well, that reminds me, another part of the deal was we do one project at a time. We would not do multiple projects. That's why each of these projects has got a different date.
Yeah.
It was part of the deal that advisory insisted on, even though it needed it. They all needed to be done immediately.
So I think one of the differences with this as opposed to some of the prior projects where those were major renovations, right? It was major renovations to the building. These are all not entirely in that class. They're capital projects. They're outside of the ability for the operating budget to afford them, and many of them do need design ahead of it. It's not just calling up a plumber and fixing something. There's some design and bidding involved. But it's not as glamorous as a brand new building. Nor is it as expensive, but it's certainly a lot more expensive than the operating budget can support. And I think what's proposed currently in this plan, I'd say, is also maybe beyond your current ability to afford as well, given your revenues. So it's a major challenge. One building that wasn't in here is the biggest building in your community that Sherborn is responsible for, the Pine Hill School.
Right.
The planning on the future of that building needs to start happening last year.
Yes.
That's overdue for a roof replacement. That's being move down the road. So anyway, I think there's a lot of information here. There's a lot of big numbers that Sherborn currently can't afford, but you need to think about it, how you're going to pick away at this. And I know a lot of this is beyond, the time that you folks have or your ability as well. And it kind of leads me back to the idea of a permanent building committee or some other group of experts. You've got many very knowledgeable and dedicated folks that are in these fields that help with your library and others that might be able to help advise you on this and advise you on Pine Hill. But that would be something that you want to decide if you want to sort of make a charter and solicit some folks to help you with that. But if anything, I think this report shows that you might want to really seriously consider that to help figure out what in this plan is priority and how you might be able to afford it.
So what I would propose based on the agreements that I would say are still in place is that instead of a 10-year plan, we have a 15-year plan. You spread this out over another.
I think this is 20.
This is 20.
It says year 10 and year 1, so 26.
So
They just
if I could make a
capital,
suggestion,
yeah.
Dan's sitting here listening to us have a conversation that had nothing to do with him.
Yeah.
We really should let him finish, because this conversation is going to go on all the way to town meeting next year. And I want to point out that there's very few line items in this report that are going to go away. We didn't put a bunch of fluff in there.
Yeah.
So regardless of whether it's year 1 or 3 or 7, they're there. The only meaningful discussions from now to town meeting is what are we gonna finance this year and how?
Yeah,
Those are the important conversations. But it doesn't change this plan. This plan is written out. Like, we can't call Dan up and go, I'd really rather you make it $300,000 cheaper in year 3. Just move stuff. But at the risk of roofs leaking, and there's roofs leaking. This one is not completely watertight, believe me, and neither is Station 2. It had
But one of
damage
the
years
things,
ago.
Paul, too, is if you're going to push the useful life, then you can cause inspections to be done more rigorously so that you're aware when the deterioration is really happening. It may not be at year 20, but you don't want to sit in the room and wait till year 25 and go in the roof. You need to start.
And maintenance goes through the roof.
Yeah,
We spent enough on that chiller outside to buy a car this year.
Yeah.
And it worked not that well.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that issue's not going to go away, and we're not replacing it this year. It's not even in the plan for this year.
I think, Sean, your point is really well taken. This plan gives us the data that we need to do all the discussions into the months. So let's go back to Dan Isles and tell us what more you can tell us about this plan, then that will help us interpret it.
Sure. And just to hit on a couple of things that were mentioned. One, it is, so the methodology is more, it takes into account what was observed, the condition of different materials during the walkthrough. It's not simply a EUL replace, EUL replace. From the ground, 30 feet down, you can see the age of the town hall roof and the degranulation, things like that. And so whether the replacement is, 1 year, 2 years, 3 years away, it could be 5, as you're suggesting, but that's a question of risk tolerance, not really a question of the condition of the material, because it could use replacement now. And so in terms of prioritizing, I agree that I think looking at the first few years, you can feel free to disagree with what I've written in here. Year 1, maybe you move it to year 2. These are talks that you have to have about prioritizing things. But at least here, everything is a line item. It's all written down. It's here. So it gives a good starting point to kind of tackle what your priorities really are. And then further out than that, years 5 and on and 10 and on, it's just trying to get these things on your radar and making sure that, there's an eye forward towards certain things. There's big expenses that are still a ways away. One that comes to mind, Station 1, the elevator is working fine and probably will, but that's in this 20-year plan because 5 to 10 years from now, you're going to need to consider that. And that's a very large expense. Things like that. So I could answer some questions or I could go through a couple more of the reports. How'd you like to handle it?
Let's just see if there are any more questions right away.
You always have firefighters with pulleys pulling the.
State inspectors love that.
So we need a new fire pole.
You want to see if anyone in the audience, we can't see.
Yeah, I can't see anyone. Anyone in the Zoom audience?
Have any questions?
Yeah.
Raise your hand.
Well, I was going to make a point while let's see if someone raise their hand. Another important thing, though, is if you're doing a project in one building, it may be good to do some of the projects all in that building if they're not quite at their useful life. There's a certain amount of disruption. If I'm going to change the attic in town hall, then I might look at the HVAC and the roof and multiple systems in that building to do a project that's only disturbing the area once, even though maybe some of the assets aren't quite at their useful life, but some of them are way beyond their useful life. So you have to come up with integrated projects too.
Well, that's consistent with the idea of doing one building, go to town meeting with one vision for one building.
Well, that's true, but it could be just one part of a building. You could do one wing of Pine Hill, for example, or something like that. Like we added the gym, when our kids were in elementary school.
Right, I don't see any hands up in the Zoom audience. If I'm not seeing you, please just speak up. Unmute yourself. Nope, I guess. Yeah, okay. Any more comments from the board at this point? What would you like Dan Isles to do next?
I think this is very helpful.
Very.
Yeah, I feel like we need to review it some more. And we're going to be, as Sean pointed out, we're going to have several committees be reviewing it. And I feel like, at least for me, I need to do my homework.
Yeah, I think given the time, we probably could go through and understand all this. It's laid out very well. And speaking for the board, I have to thank Mr. Isles very much for this huge piece of work.
Thank you.
And to Sean for wrangling it all.
Yeah, exactly.
So good. Thank you.
That's all.
Anything else you want to tell us, Dan Isles, before you go?
No, I would say since we went over it, I'll just quickly go back because I know it's a lot, especially when it's all in one document like this. But I'll just quickly kind of illustrate my point here. So if we go right to, sorry, I got that page wrong. So the first page, the spreadsheet looks like this, the first page of every site. And then there'll be between 8 and 16 pages after that. You really need half of them because this one is easier to review to my eye than the page that repeats exactly what it was said. So when you're reviewing, it sounds tedious, but I really would go line by line because it really works out to only be 8 pages per property, but it is all what feeds up into the rest of the report. But if you agree with the line items like this and you just take it that step to go line by line, it really makes everything much more clear to kind of tackle it one property at a time, just one of these 8 pages at a time and see what you think.
Oh, thanks. That's very helpful.
Yeah, Dan, before you go, I know part of your report in that roll up of the 20-year plan, you also presented a reserve fund analysis.
Correct.
Maybe a little summary of that, just so when folks are reviewing the report, you understand the context of that.
Sure. So again, we're back at the master capital summary plan, which includes all 6 sites. This summary is all the anticipated capital expenses for the next 20 years, laid out by category. This gives it a little bit more detail. But when we're laying out a hypothetical reserve funding plan, this is to illustrate if you were to set up an account and fund it so that the money was there to do all of these replacements, improvements, and repairs, as outlined in the report. How would you tackle that? And so it's just a hypothetical option. There's a million ways of funding an account like this, including not having one. But the way that we have illustrated here, just to kind of give you a first pass at it, and I did one of these for each of the separate sites also. And part of the reason I landed on these numbers specifically is because despite the either near-term or long-term needs at each site, these numbers generally worked for the individual sites as well. And by that, I mean setting an annual reserve contribution of $3.50 a square foot, to break it out that way so that you're depositing approximately $250,000 a year. But then since these accounts don't actually exist, this is just a hypothetical option right now, an initial deposit to those accounts of $4.5 million. And with that, that would fully fund everything at all 6 sites throughout the 20 years. And so that's what those pages say and how they're laid out. The contributions of that $3.50 a square foot, those are indexed at 3% going forward. And the interest on the reserve account is set right now at 2%. And with that, you get through year 20, a little overfunded with 1.1 million. But that's just due to the nature of how those things kind of fluctuate. You had to put a little bit more in to get over some near-term needs. And then there's a little bit left in the year 20, but that assumes you make no changes to this plan over those 20 years, which would be unlikely. So does that answer the question about the reserve plan?
Yeah, that's helpful, just so folks understand what that is, why it was included. It's a hypothetical.
Just a comment.
There's many variations to that theme.
Just a comment on that a reserve fund ends every year. And what he's really talking about is a stabilization fund.
Stabilization fund would be more of a technical term for municipal funding.
Right, and that requires a 2/3 vote to get money out of it. So there really has to be a commitment on the part of the voters.
Yeah.
But we'll probably also be funding it with debt, so we would need the 2/3 anyway.
Yeah, and that's why, I think that's why Jeremy had him go through it. That it's a hypothetical. Again, this isn't tailored just for municipal governments.
Yeah. Yep.
So a lot of this is more commercial based or institutional based.
Correct. That's a lot more common in commercial properties, multifamily properties, things like that. But
challenge in our context is, to come back to Paul's point, that at town meeting, if this is what needs to be done at town hall, that's a narrative everyone understands. If it's, hey, we want $5 million just because we're going to need it to take care of buildings, that'd be a tough sell.
Yeah, that always fails.
Yeah, of course, it'd be a tough sell.
People want every project, that's why the Community Preservation Act
Yeah,
couldn't
of
get
course.
passed and so on.
Of course.
People want to know about and control. They want to see a presentation. Here's the plans, all that.
And that's why it probably works well in the commercial context where there's a very different structure for thinking.
Yep.
So
And that's where they
generally
focus
when
on
those
square
stabilization
footage.
funds are set up, and your neighbor Medfield has done such for municipal buildings. When those are set up, there's the initial votes to set up the stabilization funds and fund them. And if they're through an override or debt exclusion, all those votes. But then every year, town meeting still appropriates out of them. And town meeting approves every individual project.
Right.
That upfront funding approval doesn't just blanketly approve all the spending in the future. That still would need to happen every time.
Yeah, of course.
it's an option, funding mechanism. You know?
Jeremy, how did that go in Medfield,
It passed.
setting it up
Going great.
initially? When,
Yeah, and you can, there's a great link on their website and you can click on each year. And so what I'm gonna be presenting is similar to that. I'm not gonna present how we're gonna fund it to advisory. I've kind of taken a stab at that on the article when I wrote the ask, but the way it's laid out is very good. So I'm basically mimicking it. Again, it's much simpler than this. This plan exists, but it's gonna lay out, here's the 5 big projects. And again, remember, there's a lot of line items on here that aren't projects.
right,
We keep saying projects, and to me they are. I still got to get up in the morning and get them done or get a contractor to do them. But they don't rise to that level, right? They should be in the operating budget or some other way. There's a lot of $3,000 line items in here because he built this out to cover everything.
When Medfield, when Medfield did that, Jeremy, and I don't know what the initial funding was, I should go to the website and see. But to make up a number, suppose the initial funding was $3 million. Was that then borrowed and deposited, or it was just there was authorization?
And it's one way to do it is to borrow and fund a stabilization.
It was set up just authorization to borrow.
No borrowing has occurred. They started their process the same way to build the basis, to develop the need. They after doing this sort of assessment, they figured out what they thought they needed annually. So they came up with a number they thought they needed annually to do all the projects they needed to keep their buildings in a state of good repair. That set an amount that they would fund annually into their building stabilization account. They did an operational override to provide that funding from the tax levy every year. No borrowing involved. It's another additional levy that was.
Got it. Okay.
So,
and that levy got passed at town meeting,
it did, along with 3 others that year, yes.
really? I'd like to know how
But
they
it
did
was a lot, there was a lot of planning by the town and a lot of vetting, a lot of public discussion, justifying the need and the community understood it, got behind it, and, did approve that override. So that sort of override continues year to year. It's until the select board reduce it, if the need reduces, and then you can reduce it, you can't increase it. But it can be increased by 2.5% every year, and it could be kept stable or reduced.
It's a one-time vote that did the override and set it up in perpetuity.
It's an operating override.
And to be clear, a lot of people know where I live. I didn't bring the Prop 2.5 override.
I'm just saying that's something that,
I didn't know that it worked in Medfield. I'd like to.
There's a
A
strong
lot of work went
feeling
into that.
in the town against increasing taxes with a general operating override.
Yeah.
And you're basically talking about a general operating override.
yes, and, you will see the budget roll up for the submitted budgets. It's not on your agenda this evening. I was going to give you a little update during town administrator updates, but we've now received all the budget submissions from the various departments, including the school committee, the 2 school committees. I have a summary start to that roll up, and it's not pretty. So you're enjoy the holidays. We're going to ask you to come back and
Stay in
roll up your
Cancun.
sleeves in January. So,
But just to comment on these override business, this board and advisory and so on, back when we were doing these projects, agreed there would be no general operating overrides. And we agreed we use debt exclusions when necessary because they expire, and the sense there was a lot of resistance for people to increase their taxes. And then it was more palatable to the people that we were talking to in advisory to use the debt exclusion mechanism, which ends and gets off the tax levy.
yeah. I mean, there might be a variation now that you could set a time frame for such an operating override. I mean, the benefit is there's no interest costs, or all of the money that you're raising is going directly to some improvement. But maybe there's a mechanism great term to it. Just thinking out loud.
Yeah. This is a good report, though. It's very
Oh,
good.
yeah, I mean, we need the details. It's just,
Anything for Dan?
Right, yeah, I think we
Thank you, Dan.
we should thank Dan and let him go.
Yeah.
No
Well,
problem.
we carry this discussion
We need to
on
have
for the
them back
next
at a later
years.
date. We'll keep them on, but
Right.
appreciate your work on this, Dan. Thank you.
Thanks,
And
Dan.
and your team.
Thanks.
Yep, no problem. And as Sean said, it's the final plan. We can't really change it, but if there's any questions, I can answer. Don't hesitate to send me an email, and I'll shoot you a response.
Thank you very much.
No problem.
Have a good holiday.
You too.
All right, so let's move on to the next. I think those are all the major.
We're just Jeannie now. Right, Jeannie, the licenses?
Various licenses, yes.
Oh,
Here.
yeah. Oh, I wasn't going to close the meeting.
No, I know.
All right.
Dan did point out two changes that he saw, and I apologize. They're on two of the stables, one for 42 Washington. It should be, there should be 11 horses there. And then on 34 Great Rock, it should be 35. I am typing with a cast on my right hand. I am sorry.
Oh, sorry to hear that, Jeannie.
So the only other change was Fireside is giving up their package store license. They are not renewing that, so that will be part of the report going to the ABCC.
is there someplace where we have a list of all these so I can make a motion to approve the following list of licenses? Or do I actually have to read all these licenses?
Jeannie,
You can approve the ABCC. You can just approve a stables, common bits, class 2. I think that's where we are. 4 of them.
are there, do we, in the motion though, do we need to name the street address and the name of the business?
That's the way you're supposed to do it. So I'm saying, is there a sheet of paper that I can say if we move approval, I can do all 4 in one motion if there's a piece of paper.
Right, you know, that, we didn't have a list.
Yeah, I don't see that in here.
Jeannie, could you list them for us with the addresses? List them verbally?
Do you want each individual stable license listed? Is that how you want to do it?
How many stable licenses are you
I
asking?
believe there's 12 of them.
Oh, no, yeah.
Yeah, we would.
I think
I
maybe
can
for the
read the
record, you
address.
could just read them out loud.
I can read the address.
Do you have the address?
I have them right here in front of me.
Okay.
Do you want me to read the addresses of the stable licenses?
So what I can do is I can make a motion to approve all the licenses that are in this packet.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's cool.
And then have somebody
I'll second that.
transcribe it.
prepare, when you do the minutes,
Add each one in.
you're
Yeah,
gonna
Correct.
attach
That's a good
all of these
idea.
licenses.
Well, we'll put them in individually. We'll list stable and put the address.
Yeah.
We'll list ABC, put the business.
yeah, the different
On the
categories.
list, we'll put the
Mhm.
business. Okay, not a problem.
Jeannie had the 2 corrections.
I'll get the corrections from Jeannie.
So then can I
So
make,
you can make a motion then, yeah.
all right, so can I make a motion that we approve the ABCC licenses, common victuals licenses, class 2 licenses, and the stable licenses that are contained in the select board packet for the meeting of December 18, 2025, as amended by the corrections identified by Jeannie Guthrie.
Second.
Okay, all in favor? Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Jeannie.
Passed.
One piece of information for the board. Jeannie, you mentioned today that there was one ABCC license that's not being requested.
Yeah.
Fireside is not renewing their package store license for the small building. So when I send the report into the ABCC, it will list that. And so there will be one full package store license available for 2026.
So can there be an application received
Yeah.
now for that?
Yeah, yes, if somebody wanted to apply for that, they would fill out all the paperwork with the ABCC and they would come in front of the select board for approval.
I hope the people who are on this call are listening and will fill out an application if they want the license.
Who that would be, Paul?
Jeannie, could you give us the full name of ABCC?
The Alcohol Beverage Commission.
Control.
Control Commission.
Control Commission.
Yeah, just for the
sale
audience.
of alcohol,
Yeah.
not to consume on premises.
That's right. Yeah, just so for the public listening to this, so they know what we're voting on. Okay, thank you.
Thank
So-
you.
I seconded his motion. We haven't voted yet, right?
Oh, I think we did.
Yeah.
Did we vote?
Yeah.
Okay. All right,
We done voted.
good.
Always done.
Okay. Do I have a motion for the consent agenda?
So moved.
I think Jeannie has one correction there too.
One correction. Laura Robbins put in her email that she wanted to extend her hours till 12/31/2025, and that will really be 1/1/2026. So,
All right. Do I have a motion?
So moved. To make that, to
Second.
approve that correction.
Second, okay.
All in favor?
There wasn't any second?
No.
Yeah, no,
I
Dan
second.
did. I was asleep at the switch.
All right.
Okay, the motion passes. Thank you.
Now you can do the consent agenda.
Okay, now to the consent agenda.
Moved approval of the consent agenda.
I have a second?
Second.
All in favor? Consent agenda? Passed unanimously. Select board reports. I have one small report, just an update on our Water and Sewer District Commission meetings, on the Water and Sewer District in general. We were hoping that the intermunicipal agreement with Natick would be signed last night as planned, but apparently it was not taken up at their select board meeting last night. So we're still monitoring that. But as far as we know, both towns have approved all the conditions at this point. So we're just hoping for that final vote. And we have had a presentation of a potential company to run the water sewer district. And that it's Small Water Systems Services, LLC. And they already run a water system in the country or manage a water system. I believe is that Woodhaven or?
No, they don't work on it, but it's a similar system, similar systems in the Commonwealth. It's basically what they do as a business.
Oh, okay.
But
Right.
it's similar public water systems, some for municipalities, some for private entities.
Right, so that's one company that the Water and Sewer District Commission is considering, although we're not in a place that we can hire anybody right now. We're just gathering information and getting to know the characters out there.
So would they be like an outsourced vendor and they would do billing and all that kind of stuff?
They actually don't do billing.
Oh, really? Oh, okay.
They do everything else. They don't actually put shovels in the ground and work. They hire contractors or
Yeah,
others to do that work.
okay.
I have a long list of things that they do: operational oversight, emergency responses, optimization of the systems, monitoring flow, pressure,
It's more
leaks.
technical than administrative, though, it sounds like.
Yeah.
Does that characterize it correctly?
although they would be a licensed operator, they do routine. Yeah, it's preventative maintenance,
Yeah.
compliance and reporting, which is useful. So, and they sound quite good, but we want to interview other companies as well.
Good.
Any other select board reports?
Yeah.
Dan?
Just wanted to note for everyone that I will be at the next select board meeting, but the 2 meetings after that, I have some medical things I need to take care of. So I expect I will miss the January 22nd and February 12th select board meetings. So just to put that out there on the record. And not playing hooky, have some medical stuff I need to take care of.
Good. All right.
That's what we should put on the agenda. Additional assignments that Dan Sickle.
I would be disappointed if you know, that you were all somehow out of character if that didn't happen.
Okay, great. Town administrator update.
I was gonna give the gloom and doom on the budget, but already fed you that, but I wanted to actually take the opportunity to let Sean give us an update on the South Street Bridge, if you've heard anything from Eric on the possible closure of the South Street Bridge.
The town of Natick reached out, an engineer that used to work for Jeremy, the other day with some photos of the bridge on South Street, which is quite old. I'm not sure. It's 130 years old, I think. I'm not sure. Part of it, part of the structure, if you've been over it, it's a beautiful little bridge. It's got stone walls on it. One of those has collapsed and fallen into the street. We don't believe that affected the arch. It's a stone arch. But there is a safety issue, and it will, obviously the water, that allows the water to get down into the structure more so than it did. So they're reacting to that. They have a structural engineer coming out, but they expect that they're going to recommend closing it this winter, soon, possibly.
I think I saw some caveman drawings on the
Possibly.
side of the bridge.
They're working on funding through the state, different sources of funding. It's flanked by Audubon on either side, so there's a environmental impact there.
There is a bridge and culvert fund
Exactly.
that the legislature has appointed.
Right. So they're reaching out to that. That's kind of a long term.
Unfortunately, it's clearly a Natick's bridge. It's not.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, it's not you anymore.
No, it may impact what Sean may have to do for winter maintenance and, who's kind of assumed some responsibilities for plowing and access on the 2 sides of the bridge.
If they do need to, sorry, go ahead. If they do need to close it, is there a likely timing? Are they going to, like, structural engineer will come out next week, and after that, they're going to say
They could close it that day.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what we did with Whitney Street.
They
Remember?
would just say, this isn't safe, it's just.
If he deems it not safe, they're just going to close it. We're going to have to put signage up.
Yeah.
The folks that live on South Street may welcome this. There'll be less traffic on the roadway.
They don't like that. They don't like traffic at all. I know that.
I mean, for anyone that doesn't know that, we only have one house. So we have one house.
Yeah.
Right.
And all the Natics are on the other side of the bridge.
Yeah.
The Audubon still, even though the Audubon took down that house, the antique house, the facility is still back there.
Yeah.
I don't know how much activity they have there in the winter, but we
Maybe
still have to keep
used
the
to live
road. The electricity goes from Sherborn's farm road to that structure. So we have to at least keep the road open enough that, trees come down on that road all the
If it may
time.
be closed, you won't be able to go through it. Sean still needs to plow it.
Right.
Clean.
Right. Do you plow up to the line and then?
Yeah, we plow at the line and turn around.
Right.
Their road's not in as good a shape as our road, so.
It's definitely not.
but-
It's definitely not.
So will there be a notice though,
Oh,
that Sherborn
definitely.
resident, because they may use that as a cut through to get.
Well, it's debatable whether those are Sherborn residents or Hopkinton residents, but there's a lot of cut-through traffic.
Yeah, there is.
There's a fair amount of people on Farm Road that may lobby for it to never be opened again.
Right, probably.
Yeah.
But
It was just repaved, wasn't it?
no, Natick, they saw this coming. They paved basically to the bridge.
Yeah.
which left arguably the worst section, because from the bridge to the Sherborn town line, I constantly get pothole reports for, and I have to point out that that's not actually Sherborn. Not that our road's in great condition, but I was not, wasn't real motivated to fix our side when theirs was as bad as it was. So now we'll look at that again, find out what they're going to do with the bridge.
Okay, good to know. All right. That's it?
That's it.
All right.
Merry Christmas. Happy New Year.
Yeah, if there's no more work to do tonight, let's, Happy New Year, everybody. And we'll see you in 2026.
I was going to make a motion.
Yeah, make a motion, go ahead.
I move that we adjourn.
Second.
All right, all in favor? Thank you.
This is our last meeting of the year.
Last meeting.
It is.
How sad. I enjoy meeting with you. Enjoy these meetings.
Oh, we'll see you next year.